everyone, it's Gina from orchidandopal.com, and I'm back today with the first tutorial from the brand new Orchid Oasis Eureka Crystal Beads collection. This is a design I came up with for a slinky, smooth, sleek, and modern bracelet using some of the beads that come directly from that collection. I will leave a link to that as well as each of the products individually right down below the video, as well as the quantities that you will need to make a bracelet just like this. I have an example here of a totally different colorway just to give you an example of how the colors can change the look of the bracelet. Kind of think that this looks a little bit like ribbon candy, which brings me back a few years. But as you can see, as a quick rundown, we'll be using some of the O beads, some 11-0 seed beads, Tilas, and quarter Tilas to make this bracelet. And I'll also be using one of these 3-loop slide bar clasps to finish it off, and I'll show you how to attach that. As for my needle, I'll be using a size 10 today, and you'll probably end up needing approximately 12 to 15 feet of beading thread. Just start with an arm span's length or whatever you're comfortable with using at one time, and you can always add more thread as you go. This bracelet is completed by working up each of these strips with the Tilas separately and then combining the two together with more beads in the center. So you can go ahead and grab your materials and thread your needle, and we'll go ahead and get started with that first step as we jump into this tutorial. All right, so let's start out with the first side of our bracelet. We're going to complete this first half before moving on. So what we want to do is pick up a quarter Tila, a Tila, and a quarter Tila, and once you have all three of those beads on your needle, you can pull those down and leave yourself about a 5-inch tail thread that you can weave back in later. And when you bring them down, just go ahead and line up the holes. You can see we're going through that first set of holes on these 2-hole beads, and we want to swing our needle back down and then return by going through the second set of holes on all three of these beads and pull. I'm going to hold my tail thread, and you're welcome to add a stop bead if you are more comfortable doing that. Once we pull that, you can see that little loop of thread there at the top, and we're just going to go right back up all three of those beads through that first hole once again, which is going to help us get started with a pretty secure feeling piece of thread without needing a stop bead necessarily. So once you're coming out of the first hole, we'll call that on the left, of the 3 Tila beads, you're ready to then add that little embellishment, which is in the form of an O bead and an 11-0. So pick those 2 beads up and string them down. And then you're going to swing down through the O bead, so don't go back through that 11-0, just go through the O bead, and then this time go through the second set of holes on the 3 Tilas. When you pull this, you can see it adds that little embellishment to the top, and you want to pull that and kind of center that O bead in place and make sure you have good tension on your thread. Pull that nice and tight. So that's what you start out with, is this one piece, and we're going to add length to this. And the bracelet we're going to be making today is going to be approximately 7 inches, including the clasp. You're welcome to make this length longer or shorter if you'd like, and you'll just do that by adjusting the number of rows of Tilas that you make and connect to this first group here. But let's move on to add our second group of beads, and once again we're going to pick up a quarter Tila, a Tila, and a quarter Tila. To connect these to that first group, you're then going to go right underneath that O bead, go back down through the second set of holes on the previous Tila beads. Pull this, it starts to sit in place just like that. And then with your thread coming out from the bottom down here, you're then going to go up through the first set of holes, which are the same ones you went through before on that new group of Tila beads. And I like to just hold this with my thumb and my forefinger as I pull, and pull those beads as close as you can to that first group of beads. And there you can see that it's pretty close. And this will tighten up a little bit as you go. You're going to be passing through these again, especially as you connect the two sides of the bracelet. We're going to do the same thing we did before, adding our little embellishment right at the top. So again, picking up an O bead and an 11-0, pulling these down, and then going back down through the O bead, skipping the 11-0, and heading down through the second holes on the right of that latest group of Tila beads. Holding with my thumb and my forefinger, pulling these down, making sure that those beads are sitting pretty much centered straight on the top of that new group. Let's complete one more together, and then it's just a matter of repeating the same thing all the way down. I'm going to have a strip that consists of 35 Tilas in a row, but we'll do one more together, and then you're welcome to back up the video again if you need to. So quarter Tila, Tila, and quarter Tila. Going underneath the O bead and going down through those 3 holes on the right hand side. Return by going up through the first set of holes on those new Tilas, holding with your thumb and your forefinger, and pulling those beads close together to the previous beadwork. Now we'll add our O bead and our 11-0. And we'll return by going down through the O bead again and through the second set of holes on that third group of Tila beads. Pulling this nice and tight once again, and there's 3 completed. So if you'd like to make approximately a 7-inch bracelet, go ahead and continue this strip of beadwork until you have 35 Tilas sitting next to each other. And depending on how much thread that you started this process with, you may need to add some more thread. You can see how that goes. Anyway, go ahead and complete that strip in its entirety, and then what you're going to do is repeat that again. So you're going to end up with 2 identical strips of Tilas, just like that, 35 Tila beads in length. So feel free to back up the video if you need to as you keep going, and we'll meet back when we have 2 full strips of length, and then I'll show you how to put all this together. Alright, so I'm actually back with 2 sample-sized strips. Now, ordinarily, you would have these 2 strips longer as long as you want your entire bracelet to be, but it's the same way to connect these no matter how long or short this strip is. So you'll notice on my second strip, I did leave a longer length of beading thread because I figured I could use that to work on attaching the clasp on one end. So that's something you can think about doing if you want to. Or you can do it with this next thread, which is what we're going to be using to join these 2 pieces together. I also want to mention it's up to you if you want to go ahead and weave your tail threads and your working threads back in before proceeding, or if you like to wait to do that all at the end, that's totally up to you. You can see that my ends here are woven back in and tied off. And same with this one, it's just this one thread that I have left that I'll be using to add that clasp. But to join your 2 pieces, you want to pick up a new segment of thread and line up your beadwork like you see here. You can see I've done these little strips of 11 Tilas wide, and I have them lined up so that they are parallel with each other and match up. And we're simply going to start on one end and kind of zip these together. You can begin by taking your needle and going underneath that O bead once again, going through the first set of holes of those Tila beads on the left, and leave yourself enough of a tail thread to weave back in. And I'm actually going to make a half hitch knot right here just to act as a little stopper for my thread. You're welcome to do that, and we'll proceed with the beadwork without that tail thread slipping through or needing to add a stop bead. So once you're coming out of the first set of holes in this first group of Tilas, you're going to pick up an 11-0, an O bead, and another 11-0. And then you're simply going to head up the same set of holes on the opposite side on that other strip of beadwork. So going up through the first set of holes on those 3 Tila beads, and coming up underneath the O bead that's on that end, And then when you pull, you can see that you now have these 3 beads that are joining the beadwork together there in the center. Now you're going to return by going down through the second set of holes of that first group of Tilas and pull, and that thread will just sit right under that O bead on the end. And then you'll pick up another 11-0. And these O beads are going to share the space in the middle in between each of these groups of Tilas. So you can go down through that O bead and then just pick up another 11-0 and head down through the second set of holes on your other strip. So holding that with my thumb and my forefinger, giving that a pull, and you can see that that's one group of Tilas connected. So now we're ready to just move on through the strip doing the exact same thing. We'll go back up now, heading underneath the next O bead and catching all 3 of the next Tilas and going through the first set of holes, picking up a 11-0, an O bead, and an 11-0, heading up through the next 3 Tila beads, then going back down through the second set of holes of those same Tilas. We're going to pick up one 11-0 and head down the O bead that we already added, pick up one more 11-0, and head down through the second set of holes of the Tila strip on the opposite side and give that a pull. Make sure everything's nice and tight. And you're going to do the exact same thing all the way down the entire length of your beadwork. So keep going, and again, if you need to back up the video, feel free to do that, but just keep going until you have added seed beads and these O beads in between each of your groups of Tilas on these 2 rows. And then if you have some working thread left over on this side, then you'll use that to add your clasp on that end of the bracelet. So keep going until you have your entire length connected, and we'll meet back and I'll show you how to attach the clasp. And welcome back. So let's pretend this strip is longer, but it's all connected, and we want to have our thread coming out of one end of these Tilas, and I'm just going to go up through there. You'll just have to see where your thread is positioned, but starting from someplace like this, you want to be on one side of these quarter Tilas, either over here or over here. You're going to be picking up 5 of your seed beads. And then you're going to return through the same set of holes that you're coming out of, through all 3 of those Tilas in that one group that you're working with. And that is going to wrap the 5 seed beads there on the end, as you can see. We're then going to go through those 5 seed beads once again. And then you can pick up 8 seed beads this time. And you can then go down through the quarter Tila, and quarter Tila, just getting your needle kind of under that O bead, and come out of the quarter Tila right there, kind of at the center. And you're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're going to go up through the 5 seed beads on the very end. So that's going to leave 3 seed beads in the middle from that group you just added. And then go back down through the Tilas. You can also go down through the seed bead, the O bead, and then the other 3 Tila beads. And that kind of pulls all of these together. And then I'm going to go up through the first 4 seed beads. And now we can begin attaching our clasp. I like to leave the clasp slid together, especially to start out with, just to keep everything in place and on the correct side when we're attaching that. But if you kind of line that up, you can see where you're going to want your holes kind of evenly spaced along that row of seed beads. So starting from coming out of that fourth seed bead, I'm going to pick up 3, and then I'm going to go just up through that bottom loop of the clasp, pick up 3 more, and then I'm going to head through, skipping over the first seed bead there, the second, third, and fourth. When we pull this, you can see that adds 3 seed beads on either side of that loop there. And we just want to reinforce that. So let's go down through the 3 seed beads and then go through the loop. I'm going to go ahead and pull this. Then go down through those next 3 seed beads and go up through 2, 3, and 4. Proceed on until you get to that center section. So I went 4 seed beads past where we are coming out, pulling this nice and tight once again, and just do the same type of thing. So pick up 3 seed beads, go up through the loop of the middle of the clasp, pick up 3 more seed beads, and then go through the 3 seed beads right there before the one that you started with, and then go back and loop around and reinforce it. Go back up through that row of seed beads now and come out of the second from the last. Pull nice and tight and attach that last loop. In the same way, picking up 3 seed beads, going up through that loop, 3 more. And then go through this group of 3 seed beads on the row and reinforce it. So you're going to do the exact same thing when you attach your clasp to the other side, starting out by adding that row of 11 seed beads on the end, which is what you can then attach this clasp to. So this is just one way that you can end this type of bracelet. So feel free to get creative with that, whether or not you like to make your own beaded toggle clasps, or you want to use a button or some other form of beadwork to taper down the width of this bracelet before adding, say, a lobster clasp. There's all sorts of ways you can do it. And then once you've done that, you're going to want to make several half-hitch knots and weave your tail thread back in, and then you can clip that off. So once again, feel free to back up the video and complete the same type of steps on the other side of your piece to attach the other side of your clasp, and then your bracelet is complete. All right, everyone, well, that is all there is to it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope it was easy for you to follow. Here is the finished bracelet that I showed in the beginning. The one that we worked on, of course, would look just like this, and all of the beads you can find in the brand new Orchid Oasis collection from Eureka Crystal Beads, or you can go really crazy and check out all of the fun colors that all of these beads come in. Eureka Crystal Beads has a ton of different color options if you'd like to do something else and play around with that. I want to give you all a huge thank you for joining me today. Don't forget you can check down below for links to that collection, as well as a full materials list and links to the specific items I used today. And I look forward to coming back with more from the Orchid Oasis collection. Feel free to leave me a comment down below. Let me know if you'd like to give this a try, maybe what color combination you would use, if you're planning to try this with the new collection, or anything else you'd like to say. Also, feel free to give the video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it, if it was easy for you to follow. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button while you're here, because I'd love to have you back, and that way you'll be notified of when I'm posting new content. I'll be back again soon. In the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And as always, happy beading.